It is the third weekend in April and beautiful Sunday afternoon, evening. Gonna look at the trees now. So the past week we had some really warm days and then really incredible windy, which turned to rain, which turned to snow day, and then another day after that more snow, and then it all went away. So it's been a little crazy, but we'll see how things have survived. So with the pear tree, number one here, we can see, first thing I noticed was, now that I have this nice compost down, I can see a lot of the little blossoms have fallen off. And so these are the ones that didn't take. So if the blossom fell off, we can see what happens if they do become mature. This part right there, that's a little ovary part, will start to swell, and that'll become the pear right there. So that's the little stem that you pull off on the pear, and that's where the fruit's going to be. So they're starting to swell up. So you can see the ones that have been fertilized and pollinized and all that jazz, and so they will become pears. But all these ones on the bottom basically didn't make it. So anyway, we're starting to get some fruit to, future fruit to form. So that's cool because we can see them there. Some of them, though, still haven't budded yet. Still starting to open. Some of them, it's just cool. Yeah, there's the little fruit forming right there. So we'll see how this goes. And when it snowed, I don't know how cold it got, but we'll see how that affects. I mean, that was on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's now Sunday, but I would think that a lot of these would have fallen off if they were going to die, but they look okay. So I think once the flowers have fallen off, it's a lot, once they've hit this stage, they're a lot more hardy than if they're in the open blossom stage. But I know that I've looked it up before, but I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how that works. But there's charts available that have all the different types of fruit and the temperature at which it kills, 10% of the flowers or 90% of the flowers and all that jazz. So anyway, here's our cherry tree, big and booming. And the cherry tree is not the first to bloom, but the first to fruit, and that's because they're so small. And we can see, I found some around here when I was looking around. So there's the flower, right? Blossoming, falling off, getting all shriveled up. But when there was a couple, here we are. So when that flower, this is the good one here. So basically the flower shrivels up, it'll die back, and there'll be the fruit form if the fruit didn't get pollinized. So there's two cherries. Here's one where you can see where it fell off more. Here's a whole bunch that are there. Here where it's completely fallen off. And so within a couple weeks, all these ones that will start to swell up, and then all the little crusty flower will fall off, and they'll just be the nice smooth little cherries. And that is going to be our cherry right there. So already gotten fruit start to form only a few weeks after bloom. That's what's so cool about the cherries. They don't take long. So there's a lot of little cherries on there. So once again, everywhere that there was a flower, there potentially could be a cherry if the bees did their job. And it looks like they did for a good part, at least the early ones. And you can see that these ones still haven't got to that part where they're starting to swell up just a little bit there, but it's very cool to watch. But anyway, looks like we're going to have a lot of fruit again. As always, with the cherries, it's not a matter of whether they'll set, it's just a matter of beating the birds to it. And we did that last year, and now we just have to defeat the aphids as well. So, anyway, that's the cherry, the apple tree. Got a lot more blooms open on it now. It's a kind of a late bloomer. There's a honeybee over there doing his job, her job, whatever. And, yeah, it looks good. There's bees all over there because the apple tree is one of the late bloomers. The fruit, which makes sense, the fruit takes a long time, and also it is the last to form because it's the bigger and the last to harvest, I should say. So anyway, it's looking pretty good. There are some of the flowers that have started to go past, and they're shuck split and starting to fall off. We'll see. It'll be a few more weeks, I think, before we'll get to see if there's any fruit forming on them. Not as rapid as the cherries or the pears. So here's our peach. So once again, same type thing. We have our flower that was once a flower, and so if you look really closely there, you can see something. Might be hard to pick up on the camera, poking out. So right there's a thing coming out, and that little part, and you can barely see it, is a green little fuzzball. I know that there were some that were a little easier to see. It's hard to obviously find one little fuzzy fruit on a tree like this and then remember where it was when you come back. But that's a little peach right there forming. It will be a peach, hopefully, as long as everything makes it. And so we're getting a few fruit to set here on the peach. So we'll be able to see that a lot clearer next week. But now, take my word for it, they're there. Like I said, they're just a little hard to see because they're so tiny. But there are fruit starting to form there. And it's the same process. It's going to swell up, and then the flower petals will all fall off, and you'll be left with little fuzzy fruit. So anyway, there's our white peach. The other pear, just like the other one, basically having a lot of the ovaries swelling there, fruit formation, which is fantastic. Looks good. Apricot. The big apricot is first to form, or first to flower, and usually the first to die because it flowers so early and get the cold. But a lot of the little apricot, probably won't be able to see them, but a lot of these little apricot fruit, you can't really call them fruit. They started to form right there, and then they died. Just most of them did that, but there are still some. Kind of hard to pick out, but right up here you can see on the very tip, it's like the worst part for it to be, the furthest out. But there, and then all of them, those tips, looks like they stayed. Now, of course, that's going to get heavy and come down, but right here you can see a good one. So they're pretty good size, actually, right now. These ones that did make it. So there they are. They made it. So we will have some, maybe. It's kind of hard to tell, but last year I think they got a little bit bigger than that before they all fell off. So we'll see how they go, but there's quite a bit. It's all about training your eye to see it, but now you can see each one of those has a dozen apricot on it. And if they do keep going and don't die, then we'll need to go and thin some of them out because there's too many on a long skinny branch. They can't be so close, so they won't do very well. But actually you can see lots way up there too of fruit forming. So we'll definitely have to rectify that situation. I still do need to get around to pruning it, kind of waiting to see what the fruit does before I go, because I don't want to do some pruning and then, especially now that the fruit is set, or some of it is set somewhat, I don't want to prune off spots and then that take off the only parts that'll bear fruit. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. And you can see with apricot, it's the most, got like a lot of gummy, sappy stuff. That's one of the characteristics of it. It's prone to that kind of stuff. Anyway, so that is the orchard. And then with the raspberries, they're just green coming up. The strawberries are blooming a little bit, and we'll check in with them next time and see how they're doing, what they're doing a little better. So that's all for this week.